According to a new report from CNBC, a gaggle of Republican megadonors, who all happen to be billionaires, are steering very clear of some of Donald Trump's hand-picked, Trump-endorsed Republican candidates for Senate this year. Those candidates, of course, are Adam Laal from Nevada, Blake Masters in Arizona, J.D. Vanson in Ohio, Dr. Mehmet Oz in Pennsylvania, and, of course, Herschel Walker in Georgia. These Republican megadonors, again, they're all billionaires, are still giving plenty of money to the Republican Party. In fact, they're giving plenty of money to Republican Senate races. A couple of them have given a few $1,000s to some of these candidates, but as a whole, they're avoiding these people like the plague. And I will explain in just a moment where the money's actually going, which tells you who's really running the Republican Party. But first and foremost, let me read this quote from a Republican fundraiser. This is an individual, by the way, whose job it is to go out there and convince wealthy Republicans to give money to Republican candidates. And this is what he's telling people. They would be lighting their money on fire if they got totally swayed by these candidates. Of course, talking about the 5 candidates I just mentioned, Laxalt, Masters, Vance, Oz, and Walker. So instead, what this particular fundraiser is recommending to people, which is where all the money seems to be going right now, is instead of giving it to these candidates that are all doing very poorly in their races, only 2 of them, Laxalt and Vance, are actually statistically tied. All of the other 3 are losing. Dr. Oz is losing by double digits, even though that gap has closed a little bit. The media wants you to think that race is closer than it is. Don't get complacent by any means, but Oz is still headed for embarrassment. Raphael Warnock in Georgia has once again taken the lead over Herschel Walker. Fox News poll this week showed him 5 points ahead. The rest of the polls show him 2 to 4 points ahead. Still very close, but not as close as Walker would like it to be. Blake Masters is losing by 5 points to Mark Kelly, the Democratic incumbent in Arizona. So, all the candidates are doing bad. On top of that, these 5 individuals have all been outraised and outspent by their Democratic counterparts. But as I said, the money is going somewhere, and this Republican fundraiser is telling people exactly where to put that money. He's telling them, and they're listening to him, to send it to the Republican Leadership Fund. You know, the pool of money that is basically overseen by Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. They're not giving the money to the National Republican Senatorial Committee, the fundraising arm that's run by Rick Scott, who, for the record, still has not answered questions about where all the money went. You know, when people started asking him, he absconded, left the country, fled to Italy on a luxury yacht. But he still hasn't answered the question about where he spent $149 million, I think it was. So they're not giving money to Rick Scott's group. They're giving money to Mitch McConnell's group. Because these fundraisers and the donors understand, if anybody understands Republican electoral politics, it's Mitch McConnell. At the same time this is happening, you do have Rick Scott, who's trashing Mitch McConnell. He wants Mitch McConnell's job. You have other Republicans in the Senate, and a lot of them in the House, who really don't have a say in the matter, trying to oust McConnell from Republican leadership. And of course, you have Donald Trump, who recently laid into Mitch McConnell in an exceptionally racist tirade on Truth Social. They all want Mitch McConnell gone. The donors, the millionaires, the billionaires, the people actually running the Republican Party, they don't. They want Mitch McConnell. He's the only one they trust. He's the only one they're willing to give money to because they trust his judgment. So what happens if these Republicans are successful and they oust McConnell from leadership? I have a theory about what would happen if that happens. I think we see a political realignment. I think we would begin to see these Republican millionaires and billionaires start giving money not to Republicans, but to more corporatist Democrats, right? People like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. And doing that, of course, could lead the Republican Party to having fewer people like Elizabeth Warren and, Ed Markey, and more people like Manchin and Sinema. So the Democratic Party would move more corporatist, the Republican Party would just continue going off to the crazy fringe, and those would be our two choices at that point. Because these Republican donors have made it clear they don't want anything to do with Trump and they don't want anything to do with his candidates. They only want to deal with Mitch McConnell. So if Mitch McConnell ends up being kicked out, their only other option is to go for the corporate Democrats. And to be honest, that's a terrifying thought because that could remake that party in a way that nobody should feel comfortable with. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.